All right, so have you ever heard of something called the Madman theory? It's this idea in politics where a leader acts super unpredictable, even a little crazy, but like they do it on purpose.
Hmm.
The goal, to make the other side think they're unstable and back off because they're scared of what they might do.
Yeah, makes sense.
So today we're going to be looking at whether it's genius, genuine instability, or just all a big bluff.
Sounds interesting.
We've got this article from The Independent that really digs into it, the history of this theory.
Yeah.
Nixon, Hitler, Gaddafi, Trump, Putin. We'll be covering some big names
Wow.
and asking, does this thing actually work, this tactic?
It really plays with the idea of power,
Yeah.
and how people see it.
Right.
What I find fascinating is that this whole theory really hinges on surprise.
Okay.
Like a leader can seem powerful and in control precisely because they're unpredictable.
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as everyone expects that unpredictability, it loses its edge.
Right, so it becomes like the norm.
Exactly. It just becomes noise instead of a strategic advantage.
So it's like a one-time use kind of thing.
It can be.
Nixon's a good example, right? From what I read,
Yeah.
the article talks about how he used it during Vietnam.
Uh-huh.
He wanted to scare the North Vietnamese, like make them think he might actually use nukes.
Oh,
High stakes poker, right. But was he bluffing?
Well, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Did Nixon actually genuinely think about using nukes?
Right.
Or was it all, a performance?
Right.
I mean, the Vietnam War dragged on for years,
Yeah.
despite what he was trying to do. So
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like this madman thing worked.
Yeah.
Didn't force a surrender.
Yeah, but hold on.
Hmm.
Isn't it crucial to project strength? Like, especially when you're feeling cornered.
Sure.
Wouldn't seeming unstable backfire?
It
Or
could
make other countries try to take advantage of you?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great point.
Yeah.
And that's where the psychology of this whole madman theory gets really interesting.
Okay.
You see, it's not just about strength. It's also about making people afraid, making them doubt.
Oh.
By being unpredictable, a leader can create a sense of danger, like a don't mess with me vibe,
Right, right.
that can make their opponents think twice.
Okay, so like a psychological game of chicken?
Kind of. Yeah.
Nobody wants to call the bluff if the stakes are too high.
Exactly.
Especially, with nukes and everything.
Right.
But the article says this madman thing can't last forever.
Yeah, it's true.
What makes it unsustainable in the long run?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
International diplomacy, especially these days, relies on trust and predictability.
Right.
Countries need to know they can rely on each other,
Yeah.
that agreements will be kept, that things will happen in a predictable way.
Yeah, if everyone's lying, the whole system falls apart.
Exactly.
And it's not just about diplomacy, right?
No, not at all.
Doesn't this madman theory, doesn't it have consequences for the leader too?
Absolutely.
Personally.
There's a real risk that they get trapped in their own, persona.
Like they can't break character?
Exactly.
Oh,
They
wow.
build this image of instability, and it gets harder and harder to shake it off. It's like this escalating commitment thing. Have you heard of that?
Yeah.
Where you commit to something, a course of action, and then even when it's going wrong, you can't change direction.
Oh, so they double down.
Exactly.
They dig themselves deeper.
And it affects their judgment, their decision-making.
That sounds dangerous. But the article uses Hitler as an example of this, right?
Yeah, Hitler's the classic case study.
Okay.
Like all the dangers of the madman theory.
Right.
At first, yeah, his unpredictable behavior, it threw people off.
Yeah.
He got some early wins.
What?
But as time went on,
Yeah.
it started eroding trust, fueling all this global anxiety,
Yeah.
which, contributed to World War II.
So in the end, the whole Madman Act, it backfired.
You could say that.
He got caught in a spiral,
Yeah.
and it led to his own downfall. Gaddafi, he's another example, isn't he?
Oh, definitely.
Mentioned in the article.
Yeah.
I mean, he was famous for his eccentric personality, all his unpredictable actions.
Yes. Gaddafi's a more modern example of a leader who, whether intentionally or not, definitely played the madman card.
Right.
He had this flamboyant image,
Yeah.
those outfits, those pronouncements.
Yeah.
It was like he wanted to shock and confuse people.
I can only imagine trying to, negotiate with someone like that.
Yeah.
It must have been a wild ride.
I bet.
But did it work? I mean, was it an effective strategy for him?
Right.
Or did it end up, contributing to his downfall?
Good question. Well, in the end, I think it's kind of like Hitler. Gaddafi's actions really isolated him,
Okay.
alienated potential allies, and made the region more unstable.
Right.
And, well,
Yeah.
His regime fell apart, and he met a pretty gruesome end.
Yeah, it's kind of like a pattern,
Yeah,
The Madman thing, maybe it works for a bit, but
yeah,
ultimately you lose.
it seems that way.
Makes you wonder if any leaders are using this today.
Hmm.
Maybe in a more subtle way.
Oh, for sure.
That's where the article gets super relevant, I think.
Yeah.
Takes a look at Donald Trump,
Uh-huh.
asks if his, unconventional style.
Yeah.
Was it a deliberate madman strategy? Or was it just him being a businessman in politics?
Right.
I remember a lot of people were confused back then,
Yeah.
wondering if Trump was playing some 4D chess or just making it up as he went along.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So what's the article say? Was he a calculated madman or just Trump being Trump?
Well, they point out how some of his policies, like the tariffs he used,
Mm-hmm.
could be seen as, madman moves.
Okay.
He was shaking things up,
Yeah.
trying to disrupt things,
Yeah.
gain some leverage.
Right. But didn't the article also say that there were some downsides to his approach?
Oh, definitely.
Like potential downsides?
Absolutely.
What were they?
They pointed out that while those tactics might work in the short term,
Uh-huh.
they could also really backfire. Unpredictability in international trade can cause instability and hurt the economy.
So it's like he was playing with fire and could gotten burned.
Exactly.
Speaking of playing with fire, the article ends with another leader whose actions have been raising eyebrows.
Oh, yeah.
Vladimir Putin.
Now, that's interesting.
Right.
Yeah, the article actually quotes someone close to Putin
Wow.
who thinks his recent behavior, the long table, the disinfection tunnels, the anti-West stuff,
Uh-huh.
it's all a strategy
To do what?
to project an image of strength and unpredictability.
Okay, but how can you seem strong when you're acting so erratically?
Right.
I mean, isn't that a sign of weakness?
That's the paradox of the madman theory.
Okay.
Sometimes seeming volatile can be a way to intimidate your opponents.
So they're scared of you.
Exactly. Makes them think you're not afraid to take risks, that you don't play by the same rules.
So you're creating this, aura of danger
Yeah, like a wild animal.
that could snap at any moment.
Yeah, something like that.
But the article makes it clear that this strategy is pretty risky.
Oh, very risky.
Like, what could happen?
Well, if Putin's really playing the madman,
Mm-hmm.
it could backfire.
Okay.
Big time.
Like how?
He could push things too far and start a conflict that he can't win.
Oh, wow.
And not just conflict,
Mm.
isolation too.
Right.
Remember, this whole madman thing, it erodes trust.
Yeah.
It makes it harder to build alliances, to maintain good relationships with other countries.
So he might be trying to seem strong,
Mm-hmm.
but in the long run, he could end up weaker
It's possible.
and more isolated.
That's the potential downside.
Wow.
And it gets to the heart of what's so fascinating
Okay.
and so dangerous
Yeah.
about the madman theory.
It's like unpredictable.
It is. It's a gamble.
A gamble with really high stakes.
That's for sure.
So how can we tell if a leader is really unstable or if they're just putting on an act?
That's a tough one.
Especially these days with social media. Everything gets amplified.
Absolutely.
One tweet can cause a global meltdown.
You're not kidding.
Makes it harder to figure out what their true intentions are, right?
Yeah, it really does.
Are they playing a role or are they losing it?
It's a good question.
It is.
And I think it requires us to be much more careful
Yeah.
with the information we consume,
Okay.
We need to look past the headlines, think
Yeah.
about the context,
Right.
and ask ourselves, what is this leader trying to achieve? What are their motivations?
We need to be more media savvy.
Yes.
More critical in our thinking.
Absolutely, because the craziest things
Yeah.
can be part of a plan.
A calculated plan.
Exactly.
Wow.
And there's another aspect of the madman theory we haven't even talked about.
What's that?
The psychological toll it can take on the leader themselves.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, we've talked about international relations and all that.
Right.
But what about the person behind the mask?
Right. The person.
What happens to them? Some people think that constantly playing the madman
Okay.
can create a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy.
Oh, wow.
The line between acting and reality gets blurry,
Yeah.
and the leader might start to believe their own act.
So they become the unstable person they're pretending to be.
It's definitely a possibility.
Wow.
And that leads to another question.
Okay.
Can someone who's constantly putting on this show of instability really stay in power? Or will it all eventually consume them?
That's kind of scary.
It is a bit, yeah.
It's like they're playing a dangerous game,
Uh-huh.
and they could end up losing the most.
It's a good reminder that leadership isn't just about projecting an image
Right.
or manipulating people.
It's about more.
It's about responsibility,
Yeah.
good judgment,
Uh-huh.
thinking about the people you lead.
Taking care of them.
Exactly.
So the madman theory might seem like a shortcut to power,
Yeah.
but it's full of risks.
Oh, definitely. And for everyone else.
Right. Yeah, it really is. Like that saying, absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Right.
If you're always pretending to be unstable,
Uh-huh.
maybe it actually messes with your mind.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
This psychology.
And it gets to the heart of what we've been talking about.
Right.
It's not just about, foreign policy or military
But
strategy.
it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
It's about human nature.
Okay.
It's about power, how seductive it is, and where's the line between being calculated and just delusional.
Right.
It's a thin line.
We started off asking if this madman theory is genius or just a bluff or genuine instability.
Right.
It seems like it can be all three, right?
It really can.
Depends on the leader, depends on the situation.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so interesting, so dangerous.
Right.
It's complicated. There's no simple answer.
Right.
So many factors involved, like personality, their motives, the whole global situation, what the media is doing.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And we can't forget about us,
Hmm.
the audience.
Yeah, we play a part too.
We react to it. We get caught up in it.
We do.
We analyze it.
Yeah, we do.
We try to make sense of it.
We do.
And in a way, the madman theory, it needs that attention,
Yeah.
It feeds off our uncertainty, our need to figure things out.
So what can we do about it?
Mm.
How do we deal with all this when leaders might be, blurring the lines on purpose?
Well, I think the first thing is just being aware of it.
Okay.
We got to understand how this theory works, what the benefits are, what the risks are,
Right.
how it shows up in different ways.
Like what we're doing now.
Yeah, exactly.
Breaking it down.
Yeah.
Thinking about it.
Thinking critically,
Yeah.
the more we know, the better we are at seeing through the BS.
Right. Cutting through the noise.
Exactly. And making judgments based on evidence.
Yeah. Not just getting swept up in the fear and hype.
Right. So we need to be critical thinkers, question what we think we know, look for the real story.
Don't believe everything you read.
Exactly.
Especially on the internet.
Especially online. And remember, the world is a messy place.
Yeah.
Rarely simple answers.
Yeah. This madman theory is proof of that.
Yeah. Sometimes the most, disturbing actions are all part of a plan.
Yeah. It's a scary thought, but also kind of empowering, right?
It is. It is.
The more we understand about how this stuff works,
Uh-huh.
the less likely we are to be, tricked by it.
Absolutely. Knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
And these days, with so much information flying around, being able to think for yourself, figure out what's true,
Right.
it's more important than ever.
It really is.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the madman theory,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with one last thought.
Okay.
Next time you see a leader acting unpredictable,
Yeah.
irrational,
Yeah.
don't just dismiss it as crazy.
Right.
Take a second. Think about the situation
Okay.
and ask yourself, what are they trying to do?
What's the goal?
Yeah. And how does it make you feel?
Oh, interesting.
You feeling scared, angry,
Yeah.
confused? Those emotions, they're powerful and people can use them.
Yeah, they can.
It's a reminder that we all have a part to play
In this.
in this whole global game. And the more we know, the more we're involved,
Uh-huh.
the better decisions we can make for ourselves and for the world.
Well said. Well said.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the madman theory.
Yeah. Thanks for listening.
Hope it gave you something to think about.
And remember, stay curious, stay informed, and we'll catch you next time for another deep dive.